Hi, great minds. You're welcome to this conversation on how to achieve your great source of power and motivation through your moral values and the hard work you put in to achieve your success. Now, in this conversation, we're going to look at what are values, and we're going to look at how to generate the effort needed to bring about your success through the application of your values. At the end of this conversation, we'll have a few things, or you'll be able to do a few things. One, you'll be able to align or realign your values. Secondly, you'll be able to create your values if you didn't have them before now, or if you didn't articulate them before now. Third, you may be able to understand the difference between morality and principles. Now, this is a very crucial step in the process of success. A lot of us do not really understand this difference, and sometimes it creates conflict for us in the things we do. Then lastly, you'll be able to work on your career from your power, from your powerful point, from your powerful edge, from your power within you. Because the simple truth in life is that we all have the power to be successful. You have the power to be successful in everything you are doing, irrespective of what it is. Irrespective of how challenging, how difficult, how stressful it may be, you have the power to be successful because you can do it. So if we dive into the conversation, the first thing we want to look at is, what are values? How do we define values? Now, first, before we define this value, I want us to see beyond the definition. Rather, let's see the content, because everybody may have a different definition or understanding of values. Now, but in this way, or in my own way, I say, what are values? Values are those things, those principles that are important to us. Those first principles, those rudimentary things, ideas, or ways of doing things, or those things we cherish so much that we're ready to risk everything for. We have such ideas like wealth, love, peace of mind, freedom, health, closeness to God, cleanliness, being orderly, reputation, integrity, and so many other values, hard work, honesty, and so many others. Now, these are values that work in human society and help us to achieve the success we all desire. But a question we may want to ask here is, what are the sources of our values? I say, because there are different sources of values, and the source of our value go a long way in determining whether we will achieve that value or whether we will achieve the success we desire or not. So I've crafted out a few sources of value that exist within us, which is divine plan, knowledge, aspiration, capability, and our wounds. I'll take it again. Number one, we have divine plan. Number two, we have knowledge. Number three, we have aspiration. Number four, we have capability. And number five, we have our wounds. What do I mean by a divine plan? At least every human being understands, or every religion, every philosophical system, every thinking system, every mind understands that there is an energy behind creation, or there is something that animates the manifest world. We call it God. We call it different names. Jesus Christ, Buddha, Allah, Krishna. The name is not important. The important thing is that we understand that there is a force behind us. Now, this force orders things to be in a particular way. That means that society is supposed to progress according to some kind of plan. Now, what this means is that there is no accident in creation. That is, accidents don't happen in creation. Everything is ordered by the step of the divine or by human machination. How does this relate to our values? As human beings, each and every person is supposed to play a role in societal advancement. Why? Because we say man is a social animal. Now, social, let's look at it as going beyond beyond our interaction with people vocally. That's in our conversation, in our socialization, in going to club, party, lounges, hangouts, and all that. Let's look at social, like interacting with people, even from the best of who we are, or using the best of who we are within us. Let's take, for instance, if you're a honest person and you're honest in all your activities with people, and you're also looking for a way to make sure that your honesty impacts on people, that is, even in your absence, people can be honest. So when you meet a dishonest person, there's a way or method through which you try to impact on that person the value of being honest. When you do this, you are socializing with that person also. Okay, let me take it again. Being social goes beyond our vocal interaction with people. It goes to that point where we begin to impact people from the wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding within us. That means that we have to reproduce ourselves in others. So that's being social. Now, at the universal level, there is something deposited in each and every one of us. And that thing is meant for the good of society. So when we talk about the divine plan, when we talk about the plan of providence, we're talking about how to utilize the moral standard that has been set within us for the benefit of society. So the divine plan is a source of moral standard. It's a source of moral standard that when we key into, we can achieve greater success in everything we do. Secondly, our knowledge can also be a source of moral standard for us. What do I mean? Every human being in life goes through experience, learning, exposure, and a lot others. Now, when we go through this experience, we acquire knowledge that is designed uniquely for us. Because two people can be exposed to the same experience and have different knowledge. So when you have knowledge on something, it begins to give birth to a responsibility within you. Now, ideally, a lot of us may say, knowledge is power. Yes, knowledge may be power. Some people see it like that, but I choose not to see knowledge as power. Rather, I see knowledge as responsibility. Because let's take, for instance, if you have the idea of how to create gun or how to make a gun, you can use that same gun to kill people. It makes you a very powerful person, that when you're coming, everybody is scared of you. Your name alone evokes terror amongst people. That makes you a powerful person. But when you understand that you have a responsibility towards your society, towards your community, that gun you will now use that gun to go to the bush and hunt animals for people to eat. Maybe when you kill the animals, you can come and sell them. And when you sell them, people have something to eat. Okay, I'm just trying to paint a picture of the difference between good and bad use of our knowledge. Now, for those of us that do not believe in killing of animals, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to despise your sensitivity, okay? But I'm just trying to paint a picture. So the knowledge you have is supposed to give birth to a responsibility. A responsibility enables you to understand that you are not to use your knowledge for your own selfish agenda or for your own personal aggrandizement or pleasure. The best use of knowledge is for the advancement of this life of the society or the community or the species of which you are part of. Because knowledge is a great tool. It's a great tool that humanity as a species has not learned how to manage properly. That's why we use our knowledge more for destructive purposes. Such as like we find among the scientific industry and the political class. And some of our leaders in various fields use the knowledge they have against us. Even in the religious circle, you find people who use their knowledge against their followers. So If we go back to our source, now knowledge, the ultimate aim of knowledge is for the advancement of the species. If you can make things happen using the knowledge you have, then you can make those things to be positive. Okay? Now, thirdly, we have our aspiration as a source of moral value. What are aspirations? Sometimes you aspire to become great, to become big, to grow our business, to grow ourselves, to gain certain level of fame or influence or affluence in the society. It's an aspiration. And moral values come from this, or our values come from our aspiration. Number 4, our values also come from our capability. Now, there's something I always say, that life is a school with unending lesson, where each and every experience is a teacher and helps to mold our character into whom we will ultimately become. That means that every person we meet and every experience we have is a teacher. It teaches us something. And when you have taught something, you become capable of something. So by virtue of our knowledge gained in the school of life, we're capable of so much. All we need to do is to go back, sit down, contemplate this experience we've had, contemplate a lot of things about life, contemplate the future, and contemplate about our society, the society of which we're part of. Then we begin to learn about our capability and begin to function there more appropriately. So that's for our capability. Then number 5, we have our wounds. Sometimes our values come from our wounds. What do I mean? Okay, let's take for instance, you're a man, you have a girlfriend, maybe you want to marry her, you love her so much, or you like her so much, and you envisage spending the rest of your life with her. But sometimes some guy comes with a good toy that you can't even afford, and he gives her the goodies of life that she wants, and she leaves you. She goes on with him to have a good life. Whether the guy is genuine or not is not important. The important thing is that she has left you. And that gives you a great cause for concern, or a great source of pain, or a great source of anger. So you are wounded. And you can now create a value that I will make as much money in life as I can. For some people, it's not about the girlfriend or something. It's about our environment. Maybe someone insulted you, or someone did something to you which you construed as an insult on your person. So you say, because of this that this person has done, I will be this. I will achieve this. So you see, these values of wealth or affluence or influence or however is coming from a place of wound. It's not coming from the real you. Now, this has its own drawback as well, because this doesn't take us far. It doesn't take us far. So now we've seen the 5 sources of moral values. There are more moral value sources. There are more. This is just a few that I've come up with for this discourse. So let us look at how to create or reinforce our values. The first step in this process is to take stock of who you are in view of where you want to be. What do I mean? Buju Banton sang a song and he said, many live this life without having a clue. No reason why they are so sad and blue. Places to go, so much things to do. Not a moment to reflect on the cycles of life. Okay, now in life, to move further, you have to take stock of where you are. You have to contemplate your life. You have to examine your life. Because an unexamined life is not worth living. But why do we examine our lives? We examine our lives because we want to become better than who we were. For those that have the required wisdom, they compete with themselves to become better than who they were yesterday. But those not so enlightened will be competing with their friends, neighbors, enemies, and all that. So the ultimate aim is for us to analyze ourselves, know who we are, take stock of where we are in view of where we want to get to. What do I mean? If, let's take for instance, you want to become an engineer, but right now, you've not even gone to school to become an engineer. So that means that the first step for you to take, starting from where you are, is to find a way to become trained as an engineer. Maybe going to an engineering school, or going to a high school, to a university, to a technical college, or to somewhere that you have to be trained on how to become an engineer. That's where it starts. It could also start with, if you don't have the access to these facilities, it can also start with you going online and reading about engineers and who they are and how to become a good engineer. Now you're acquiring theoretical knowledge about engineering. So there are so many points for you to move from, that when you start to move from this perspective, your thought will not be to your thought will not be that the grass is greener after the fence or beyond the fence. Rather, you start thinking of how to build yourself from where you are. Because the truth is, we all have the capacity to be super successful at anything we're doing. If we have the patience, the determination, and the persistence to be hardworking in what we're doing, we will always arrive at the success we desire, both in our personal life, in the communal life, and in the national life. Nations that are highly dedicated to their own growth become the greener pasture of every other lazy people moving out from other places to come to them. And such people are never respected. Irrespective of how hardworking you are, you will never be respected elsewhere. You will never be valued as much as you are there. Why? Because you left where you are. So the idea is to start where you are, plant your bucket where you are, take stock of who you are, then move from there. Do those necessary things that you need to become who you want to become. You can put them in steps. Okay, I want to become an engineer in the next 10 years, but right now I don't know anything about engineering. So what do? Okay, I have to go to school. The next step, I have to learn what it means to become an engineer. How do they behave? Third, I have to look for a job so that I don't end up coming out of the university and I'm not even able to write an application letter. I have to know what I'm doing. You put down these steps, then you work according to this plan. I'm not saying that this plan is going to be smooth or it's going to manifest the way you put it or the way you want it. No. It will go through ups and downs. It will go through stages. It will go through setbacks and challenges. But your ability to bounce back the 8th time after so many setbacks is what makes you strong, is what gives you the greatness you desire. So take stock of where you are and how far it is from where you are going. Then you start walking towards where you are going. I think for practical purposes, you can pause this video or this audio, depending on the source from which you're listening to this. You can pause it, take a pen and paper, write down your goals, write down your vision, write down your dream, write down what you want to be, write down the highest point of success you desire in life. Write it down. Just for practical purposes. Later we may come back to this, or you will also have a lot of work to do on this. Write down this dream or reawaken it in your mind. Don't forget that the first step is to believe that you can achieve this. Now, when you have written down this dream or when you have reminded yourself of this dream, the next question I want to ask is, where does it come from? Where does your dream come from in life? For us to understand where our dreams, visions, and goals come from, I like us to look at what I call the category of values. Basically, there are two categories of values. One is principles. Then the second one is morality. These are two different things, but we're going to see how they connect. What are principles? Principles are standards through which we live with or we live by. Those things that mean to us, those things that mean important things to us, those standards that we have set or that we have realized, those are our principles. Let me give us a simple illustration. I have this principle of if I wake up in the morning, the first thing I want to do is to pray. I pray first because for me, prayer is a kind of conversation or real analysis. So I pray to connect to my source first before I do any other thing. It doesn't matter how much important that thing is. It doesn't matter if I wake up late and I have to rush to somewhere. I must take my time to do something. Now, it's a principle that I live by. But sometime in my life, I think as an undergraduate, I had a roommate. And I found out she doesn't pray. Most times in the night, I want to go to sleep. I say, pray. She'll say, no. What do you mean prayer? I don't pray. I don't know how to pray. I beg, pray. And I'll pray. Initially, I thought it was a joke, but when this thing repeated itself several times, I now realized she doesn't know how to pray. So, let's go beyond this. Prayer is something that everybody wants. But how do we pray? Do we pray? Does everybody pray? Sometimes you go to some families, you find out that prayer is done by the whole family in the morning and in the night. That is, the whole family wakes up in the morning, assemble together and pray together before anything is done. You go to some families, you wake up in the morning, you do your domestic chores, you do your stuff, you bathe, then you come and pray together before the next step. Or sometimes some families pray during breakfast. And if you go to some families, if you wake up in the morning, you are better pray in your room, because if you don't pray, you're on your own. Okay? Now, they are praying. And there are people who don't even pray. Now, I don't want to be superstitious to say that their life is the way it is because they don't pray. Because if we go by that standard, my former associate wasn't praying as a person, but her life was far better than a lot of people I know who pray. Now, when it comes to prayer itself, there is no agreed form of prayer. Some people pray quietly, quiet, intelligent, and it's like they're having a conversation. It's like they're reasoning. It's like they're trying to figure out. Some people even ask questions while praying. But basically, their prayer is in a serene and quiet method. But there's another kind of person who prays by shouting. They have to shout at the top of their voice. Maybe whoever they are praying to is deaf. I don't know. But the point is they shout. And they keep shouting and they keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. It's a form of prayer. It works for them. There's the meditative prayer, like we see in the monks in every religion. Every religion has monks. So every religion has thinkers, or those who are philosophical minded. You see them doing their meditative prayer, sitting in quietude. Like the Catholics, you see them counting their beads and praying. The Buddhists, you hear the chants. You have different forms of meditative prayer. And you have, in this meditative prayer, there are those who do meditative prayer without uttering a word. So, the prayers are different amongst everybody. Now, let's look at the difference between being principled and having a moral standard. Let's go back to my prayer. Now, I had this principle, or I have this principle because I use it, I have it up till now. When I wake up in the morning, if something happens to take me out without praying, like when I was in the family house, I was living in the BQ, so sometimes in the morning, if I wake up in the morning and I have to go urinate, I come out of my room, go to the toilet. Sometimes it happens that I may see somebody who also maybe came out to urinate or something. Now, let's remember, I have not prayed before I came out. Now, when I see such people, if they greet me, I don't answer them appropriately. I don't answer them like, sometimes I have to just hum morning and walk away. Initially, I was doing this, and it didn't mean anything to me. Then one day, it didn't occur to me like, someone greets you in the morning by 5, and you're answering the person like they are forcing you to answer this person. This person doesn't understand your principles, and you have never told them your principle. Now, what's going to be going on in this person's mind? Obviously, the person will be thinking, what's wrong with this guy? Did he see me fighting with him in his dream? Is he okay? Is everything right? So a lot goes on in this person's mind. Now, when I realized that, I had to adjust my prayer life. So sometimes if I wake up in the morning, even without spending the time to do my appropriate prayers, the first thing I do is I say the grace. So it's an opening prayer. Then I can go do whatever I want to do and come back. Now, but the key here is that when you have a when you have a principle that works for you, that is good for you, but it is not good in your interaction with your society or with your environment, it is not a moral value. It's a principle, yes. Principles are good. It works for you. But if it is in conflict with your environment, it's no longer a principle, a good principle. You have to adjust it. But when it is good for the environment, when your environment accepts it as a standard, it becomes a moral value. So moral values flow from principles. This is where knowledge helps. Because when you have knowledge, you become refined. You begin to realize your responsibility, and you begin to create positive principles. So, moral values are principles that are accepted. Let's take, for instance, we talked about meditative prayer. We talked about shouting prayer. And we talked about quiet prayer. If you're the shouting type, you pray by shouting at the top of your voice and repeating yourself 1,000 times. And it happens that maybe you went to somewhere work related or something, or even on vacation or something, or you went to visit a friend, you decided to spend the night, and it happens that you have to pray. Something happens and you have to pray, maybe before a meal or something. And if you're asked to pray and you start shouting, at that point in time, it's not ideal, because it's not a moral value for you to shout and pray. But it's a moral value to pray, but it's not a moral value to shout and pray. So, morality are those things that contribute towards other people's well-being. That means that when you have a standard and everybody accepts and likes it, it's good. Okay, let's take for instance, I know like in Nigeria here, it's an acceptable behavior or it's an accepted behavior for you to greet even people you don't know. You could be walking on the street, you greet your neighbors, you greet your friends, you're living in an estate, in a compound, you greet, it's considered nice when you greet your neighbors. But sometimes when you have conversations with those who have stayed abroad, Europe, America, and a few other places, they come back and tell you greeting is an option. You can live side by side with somebody for 1 year and you've not greeted him. In fact, sometimes in some places you can greet somebody and he picks up an offense with you. Why did you greet him? Over here, we those people we respect, we call them sir. So you can even see someone who's far your elder in age, but he calls you sir. But out there, I understand like a friend who went to UK once, he said, out there, who calls you sir? Sir is a title. And if you don't have it, in fact, even in your place of work, people don't call you by sir. People address you by your name. So why I'm saying this is I want us to see how principles can be moral values and can at the same time it's not a moral value. Because let's take for instance someone that is born in the UK or something comes into Nigeria someday, maybe he's talking with his elder, maybe in the village or something, and he decides not to add sir in front of everything he says. The person may pick an offense. So it's not a standard. Now, wisdom is knowing when to differentiate, adjust, and realign between our principles and moral standard. Wisdom implies that when you have a standard, when you have a moral principle, you know when to adjust it. And you know when to fit into a new environment that you're in. There's a saying that when you go to Rome, you behave like the Romans. Okay? So, morality is actually a cord. Morality is a cord that binds society, that makes society better, that inspires society, that creates a positive outlook or perspective from which society can solve our problem. Because without morality, we will not really be able to connect with the next person, to be able to understand what this person's problem is and how our own wisdom or knowledge can add value to that person via solving problem. Maybe a problem through our career or other means. Now, this brings us to the important part of this conversation. I'm going to read out something, a wise quote by Brain Tracy. It says, every single life only becomes great when the individual sets upon a goal or goals which they really believe in, which they can really commit themselves to, which they can put their whole heart and soul into. The key word here is believing. Commit themselves and the heart and soul. Now, how does this relate to our career or our endeavors in life? As an individual, each individual in whatever field you're working in, you are a recipient of the energies that resonate or the energies that are within that particular profession. What do I mean? They said necessity is the mother of all inventions. Agreed. But mothers don't give birth alone. Mothers are impregnated by fathers to give birth. except in where you have hermaphrodites. But even in the hermaphrodite cases, they have this male and female reproductive organs, so they impregnate themselves. That means there is still a father. Because the word father comes from source. That's why God is called a father. In the real sense of the word, when God is called a father, it's not in the male gender. Rather, it's the source of creation, because God created the universe or humanity. So, the father that impregnates necessity is what? Challenge. Necessity is the mother of all invention. Yes. But the father of all invention is challenge, because it is challenge that necessitates an invention. And we all find this in every walk of life. Today let's take for instance, today we use the solar panel. How did solar panel come to be? Humanity wanted to launch satellite into space. How do we power that satellite? Are we going to connect it to a generator or a power station on Earth? How are we going to do that? Then they started thinking, how do we convert heat energy into electrical energy? And that's the birth of solar panels. So, necessity is the mother of all invention, but challenges is the father that impregnates necessity for it to give birth. So, behind every problem in life is the solution to that problem. Okay, if I choose not to use the word behind, if I use beside every problem is the solution to it. But we need to think at a higher level for us to be able to solve those problems, for us to discover the solution. And the solution to every problem can only be discovered by those people who are working in that field of endeavor. Now, when you're working in a field of endeavor and you're working from a moral value where you want to add, where you have that greatness within you to impact on your society, when your morality is designed or built on the principle of empowering humanity, then the solution to the problems existing within that career will manifest in your mind. Because Providence did not just create man and throw him into the earth to grope in darkness. We are empowered because we have the image of the Creator within us. And that image makes a way where there seems to be no way. I use the word seem, where there seems to be no way. So, you working in that field, let's take for instance, you're a medical doctor. You're healing people. There is no way that an engineer or a mechanic who deals on repairing car engine will design a better way of treating people. It's not possible. Okay, we have some rare cases where such things happen. Someone comes up with an idea. But in such cases, sometimes it changes the whole direction of that person's life and that person begins to work on that project. But now, that brings us back to what I talked about, divine plan. That means from the origin, this is where divinity or this is where providence has set for this person to walk in. But maybe when the person came out in life, due to challenges or one thing, the person chose a different direction. Like a lot of us do. The choices that we choose to study in the university or in high school, it's not as a result of what resonates within us. Rather, is we do it because we want to make money. We want to buy big cars, toys, have estates, material properties. And so we dabble into what we're not prepared. And that's the first cause of failure. So, when your morality is designed to empower humanity, to empower your community, to empower your society, then you become a conduit, a channel a source for solving the problems within that profession. Because that brings about dedication in you. That dedication that makes you to understand this profession beyond the written laws or the written principles of that profession. Yes, this is so because all the known laws of physics are just a mere suggestion. When you get down to the root of things, you transcend the laws of physics. Because the known laws of physics are those we have discovered. There are tons of discovery, there are tons of ideas still existing within the mind of God that we have not discovered. So the known laws of physics are just a mere suggestion. After all, at a point in time, at a point in history, it was thought that no human being can run beyond 30 kilometers per hour. I don't know if it's 30 or 20. There's a figure to that. But it was broken by somebody. And today, people run beyond that limit. The first time cars were created, it was said that no car can travel beyond 50 kilometers or the rush of air will kill all the passengers in the car. But today, we have Formula One throttling at the speed that can even tear someone's clothes out of his body if he passes by him. If you go through the pages of history, we have so many of such impossibilities becoming possible, or seemingly impossibilities becoming possible. That is because when you are walking from a point of morality, when you're walking from a point where you want to empower humanity, you connect yourself to the source. And that source, whatever name we call it, divine providence, whatever, but you connect yourself to it. And it is said that one with God is majority. So you connect with the majority force that is within you, that animates you, that animates creation, that knows the solution to every problem. And you begin to solve those problems. So you need to realign your morality. Or realign your principles to fit into the morality that enables humanity to progress from one point to another. So you can draw down the cord of inspiration. Now, this brings us to one of the most important aspects of this conversation. Like Brain Tracy said, goals they believe in, goals they commit themselves, goals they can put their whole heart, soul, and body into. One of the keys of failure is doing something from lack of moral principles. Remember in this conversation, I said something. I said, sometimes as a result of our wounds, our pain in life, we build values. But those values are like a house built on quicksand. Your girlfriend leaves you because you don't have money. So you swear that you will make so much money in this life. Someone looked down on you, or someone made a sniding remark, or someone makes you feel inferior because you don't have money. So you swear or you resolve that you will make as much money as you want. Now, this comes from a negative point within you, from anger, from revenge. And these are negative emotions that cut down the flow of divine energy into you. So people now get involved with careers that are not resonating with something within them. Now, when you start that career, you may be making money, or when you start that endeavor, you may be making money. You may be doing some, good stuff. But after a while, all the challenges that are associated with that career or that endeavor begins to manifest itself. And as at this point, you will lack the internal energy needed to pull through these challenges. At that point, a lot of people quit. And they say, oh, I didn't know this thing was so difficult. It's so difficult. I can't do it. So you keep quitting from one job to another, from one career to another, from one profession to another. And the simple truth in life is that quitters never win and winners never quit. Winners never quit because their life is dependent on that thing which they believe in, which they can invest their whole life, soul, spirit, body, mind, everything. They can invest it in that endeavor. And that is where you can only achieve the success you desire. So if you desire to be great in life, you have to realign your values to what Providence has designed for you or slated for you. You have to do something that you believe in. Something you believe in because of something it awakens within you. If it's justice, get into the legal profession. If it is healing people, get into the medical profession. If you have that affinity for mechanical things, go and become a mechanical engineer. Or you work on, if you have that, whatever flair that comes inside of you that you have suppressed as a result of the fact that you want to make money, or you want to become one of the most respected people in the society. What has respect or influence in the society got to do with morality? Nothing. It's just your personal aggrandizement, your personal enjoyment, your personal pleasures, which has no solid foundation. So failure is inevitable in such things. But when you believe in what you are doing, when you do what you believe in, when you love what you are doing, when you are committed to your career, to your progress, to your growth, you will see success coming beyond your widest imagination. Though it may be challenging in the beginning, but the end will always be super successful. You'll be super successful because you have the capacity. That's the most important thing. You have the capacity. You are 1 in a million. Why do I say so? You are 1 in a million because you are 1 in more than 100 million sperms that fertilized an egg. So there were over 100 million sperms that swam across the ocean, but you went there first. You got the prize. So you're 1 in a million. If at the tiny level of a sperm, you knew what to do and you outswam over 100 million other sperms, then you're 1 in a million. You're a champion. So use that strength, that great strength that is within you, connect it to your moral standards and do what you are supposed to do. Now, this is a heavy task. This is not going to be easy for all. Yes, because sometimes this requires that you leave your job, leave your profession, leave your business, leave the kind of business you're doing and venture into something else. Because when you discover yourself, whatever you are doing or what you've done in the past no longer matters. Rather, it is the new you that matters. And that new you is not dependent on your knowledge. Rather, it's dependent on the inspiration that flows from within. Because nothing is impossible to those who believe. And when you believe in what you are doing wholeheartedly from your source, from the image that is within you, from your power core. Yes, let me use that language. From your power core, the core of who you are. When you walk from that perspective, then you break bounds. You break beyond the limitation. That's where the laws of physics become a mere suggestion to you. I'll give us a simple illustration. Now, in the late 18th century, or is it 19th century? I don't really know. Okay, let's say in the late 1890 something and the early 1900. I think there's a way they add 20th century or 19th century. I don't really know that for now. I can't really remember. But the point is, in those, before then, there was nothing like aeroplanes. There was nothing like aeroplane. But certain people believe aeroplanes could be made. So people were doing experiments. There were universities that were experimenting. Some people were putting in so much money, so much effort. There were companies that were producing cars. But these guys never believed, they never bothered themselves to think that we can produce a plane or an engine that can carry a plane, because the general idea was that humans cannot fly or man cannot fly, because you cannot place a metal, a machine, an engine that is so heavy in the air. There's nothing to sustain it. It will collapse. It will fall back. But some people believed in it. Now, there were professors of physics, chemistry, the sciences, who were writing books, 300-400 pages books, explaining why man cannot fly, using the laws of physics to explain themselves. But there were companies who were still researching and working on. And there were private individuals who were trying with gliders and so many other apparatus just to fly. But the surprising thing is that the first people who launched, or the people who launched the first successful aeroplane, were bicycle repairers. They had no academic knowledge of machine or no machine, heavy or no heavy. Just like Jesus said, go to the ant, you sluggard, and learn her ways. The people only observed nature. And they say, yes, we can make this thing work. I remember in one of the letters, one of the brothers wrote to his brother, he said, I so believe that man can fly that I'm ready to lay down my life for it. Now, can you imagine bicycle repairer when they were professors of physics, chemistry, and the sciences? A bicycle repairer now made the first plane to fly. I think he flew for about 35 or 45 seconds. And that was the beginning of man being launched into the air. And today, we have jets that are flying at supersonic speed. Mach 10, Mach 12, Mach 15, Mach 20, even Mach 50. We have jets that can fly around the world 20 times in 1 hour, even though some of them are classified. We have rockets that launches man into space. All because two bicycle repairers believed in their dream, believed that they could launch man into the air. In one of the letters that Wilbur Wright wrote to Owen Wright, I think that's the brother's name. There is Wilbur and Owen, or something like that. Yeah, Owen. He said, after observing the flight of the buzzard, I think there's an insect, buzzard also. The insect actually is very heavy, but it has a light wing. But it's still able to fly. He said, after observing this insect, I found out that the insect adjusts its wing in a particular direction to its body. And that's what makes it fly. So he observed nature and he understood that something can be done out of this thing. And not the laws of physics that has been discovered. Sometimes the laws of physics discovered is just a reflection of the stupidity of the people who discovered it, or their lack of knowledge. Because sometimes some people have very crazy or negative ideas which they now produce theories to support, and everybody believes in it. After all, Aristotle crippled medicine for over 1,000 something years by telling that nobody should dissect a human being again because he had found out all that needed to be discovered. And that was why even the medical profession did not know that blood flows in the body. They thought blood was stagnant. Up till, I think, the 17th century when, I can't really recall his name, who came and told science or the medical field that blood actually flows in the human body. And he did multiple experiments to prove to doctors that blood flows before it was believed. And today we all know blood flows. So the known laws of physics are just a mere suggestion. When you are working from that internal energy, that power source, that core, that's, let me use the electrical battery that powers you, you break the bounds of limitation. And you do what is thought to be impossible, because nothing is impossible to those who believe it. If you conceive it, if you can conceive it in your mind, you can make it work. You can make it happen. I'm not talking about inventions. I'm not talking about inventions with respect to machineries. I'm talking about invention with respect to what you are doing. You can invent a better way of doing things. So even if you're a teacher in a secondary school, in a primary school, in a high school, or in the university, you can invent a better way of teaching people. You can observe that these students you are teaching, they are not understanding. But if you adjust like this, they will understand. If you're a mechanic, you could have discovered that, if we lose this part from this particular angle, it doesn't work. So we have to adjust and lose from this angle, and it will work. If you're a trader, you can observe that when you quarrel with your customers, they reduce. Most people will not want to come back to you. And most people will not refer people to you. So you adjust your behavior and stop quarreling with people. You start building relationship with your customers. So they start referring other people to come to you. So inventions are multiple. There are thousands of them. There are different ways you can invent. But the most important thing is that you will achieve the success you desire. You will achieve the greatness that comes with understanding the power you carry within and the motivation you can gain by connecting to your source via your moral standards. So the emphasis here is for you to realign your vision, realign your goals to reflect divine principles, and you will break beyond any bounds. You will advance humanity, and you will create a better society, because humanity stands on the brink of self-annihilation. And without great effort, great work on our path, we will slide down into oblivion. Now you are one of those people that can bring us out when you do what is best for humanity. When you practice your noble virtues, when you practice your moral values, when you take it to the next step, when you infuse it into your career, when you infuse it into your daily life, when you infuse it into the things you are doing, when you make it in such a form that your presence in every environment reflects what you stand for, without you speaking a word, that's the highest level of leadership. When your presence in an environment causes a change, a positive change that reflects who you are. So I need you to remember that you're great. You're greater than whom you've ever thought you are. You're more powerful than you know. And whatsoever you set your mind to, as long as it is within divine providence or within the moral values that contribute to humanity's advancement, you will be super successful. Because that is how life is designed. I believe in you, and I believe that you can tap into this power. You can tap into this motivation, and you can build a better life for yourself and for humanity. So let's give humanity one more chance to prove itself. Let us create a better world. Let us build our world to reflect our noble values, and humanity will go a long way. You're a success. That's the truth. If you have left a couple of careers you were doing in, or if you have believed that you will not be successful, I'd like you to change that idea right now. I'd like you to begin to think of yourself as a super successful person. I'd like you to realign yourself into the divine plan that is necessary for you and I. Humanity is a team. Humanity is a species. And it is through our morality that we advance. I believe in you. I believe in you. Yes, I believe in you once more. So be your best. If you have any questions with respect to this, you can leave it down in the comment section and I'll attend to it. Thank you for listening.